As I'm reading this gospel, Talita Kum, about this girl rising up through the voice of Jesus, I'm excited because there's so much that the Lord has spoken to me through this gospel today. Even as I was praying what to say over the last week, thinking about this gospel. You see, this is what I do throughout the week. I read the gospel, I meditate on the gospel, but the Lord really spoke to me through this, because you see, this is a story of this little girl that had a declaration of death over her life. She was dead, and there were many voices around her telling her that she was dead. There were people who came and told Jesus, don't bother the master anymore because she's dead. It's too late. The hope is all gone. Why bother praying? Why bother speaking to Jesus about it? And then they go to this place. Jesus comes and he surrounds himself with Peter, James, and John. Important. This is an important fact because, you see, Jesus himself needed to surround himself with people who have faith. And so the parents didn't listen to the voice of condemnation, but they listened to the voice of Jesus. And so the parents brought Jesus to the girl. And what happened is, when he comes to this place where this girl is, still there's so much negativity. There's still the voice of death all around her, people weeping and wailing and crying. And when he said, listen, I'm going to answer your prayer, what did the people do? They laughed. Jesus doesn't answer prayer. Jesus is not going to hear your prayer. So we have two people already resisting the power of Jesus in their lives. One is the people who are telling him, don't bother Jesus. Why bother praying? That's the lie of the devil, number one. Number two is the voice of death that surrounds us when we're in an addiction. We're in a place where we're hopeless, where we have bad news of sickness, where we're in a place where we're stuck in sin, in a place where relationships are broken, in this place. And people tell us that it's too late. Walk away. It's too late. Just give in to your sin. You're an addict. Stay in your addiction. You're never going to get over it. Don't stop fighting that sin. Stop trying to resist the devil, because it's easier just to give in to death. These, you see, are the voices that were inside the room of this little girl. And what does Jesus do to perform that healing? What does Jesus do to free her? What does Jesus do to raise her from the dead? Well, as I said, first he goes into the room. Her parents interceded for her. We need people around us who take us to Jesus. And this woman, the parents desperately took Jesus to this little girl, brought Jesus to their little girl. Surround yourself with people who take you to Jesus, not with the voices of condemnation and crying and grieving and telling you that it's too late. So what does Jesus do? He walks into this room with people of faith, with a community of believers. Peter, James, John, Jesus, the parents surrounding this girl with faith, with Jesus, with the church, with the believing community. And what does he do? He sends everyone out. All the negativity, all the lies, all the voices that we hear that say we're not good enough, we're not strong enough, we don't have the power, God's not going to answer our prayer, it's too late. The voices that laugh at the fact that Jesus is in your life, he sends them out. And he says, go out. He locks the door. And what does he do? He bends down and he whispers into the ear of this little girl and he says, Talita kum, tifla little girl, rise up, rise up. And she's no longer hearing the voices of death and condemnation and of grieving and of crying and of acceptance of sin. But now she hears clearly, because she's surrounded by people of faith, because she's allowed Jesus to step into her space, because her parents have given Jesus the authority to work in her life. She hears the voice of Jesus, the voice of truth. And this voice of truth tells them a different story, tells her a different story to the voices that are saying that Jesus is not going to answer your prayer, that it's okay to keep on sinning, it's okay to stay in this abusive situation, it's okay to keep in this place of desperation. But instead, she hears the voice of truth. And what does that voice of truth do? It breaks the chains of death. Death no longer has a hold on her because she's listening to the voice of truth. The question is, in your death, in your addiction, in your fear, in the negativity that you might be feeling, who are you listening to? Are you listening to the voices of people around you, the voices of the news even, the voices of condemnation, the voices of saying that you're not going to survive, that you're not going to thrive? Or are you spending time listening to Jesus telling you, little boy, little girl, rise, get up, walk with me, stay with me? And you can imagine this girl rises up. And what does Jesus do? He doesn't say, now follow me, go and evangelize, but he says to her, nourish her, feed her, strengthen her body, give her the sustenance. But he didn't tell the people outside the door to give her sustenance. He told the parents, Peter, James, and John, the community. You see, she needs to now surround herself with people who help her grow, who nourish her, and who keep pointing her to Jesus, who is her life, who gives her life. And it's the same with us. What are you listening to? Are you listening to the voice of Jesus? Are you allowing Jesus to work in your life, or are you've just given up to your depression, given up to your sin? Get away, stay away from that, and close the negativity outside the room and go and listen to Jesus, spend time with Jesus, go on a retreat, go to confession, go and turn away from that sin in your life and allow Jesus to give you a new life. Thank you, Jesus, that you call us to rise, that you call us not to stay dead in the world that tells us that it's okay to be dead, that accepts death. Lord, you don't. You give us life. And when we are with you, with the community, with people around us who want us to live, that is where and when we come to life. Thank you, Jesus. We praise you, God.